1, 2, 3, 4. It's the Babylon 5 podcast.
What up, y'all? It's your boy Jermaine Babbles. It's the Babylon 5 podcast. How you guys doing? Shout out to Anastasia from And the Wife podcast for counting me off today. It's so fucking dope that she would do that. Guys should check out the And the Wife podcast. I was just checking out this episode. They're discussing like fetishes. I think it's like a website or something. They were talking about it's called like Fet Life. The one guy was talking about how he's into spanking people and whatnot. It's a pretty interesting convo, you guys. Go out there, check it out. Why not? It's called And the Wife podcast. Thank you so much, Anastasia, for counting me off. I was just singing to myself. I was singing that T.I. song. It's like stacks on deck, Patron on ice. And I was thinking, like, when I was younger, in my head, when that song was popular, for whatever reason, in my mind, well, just like I would, to myself, when I was alone, I would sing, I don't want Joe Biden, need Joe Biden. Just like I would, because you know the line, like, I don't want your body, need your body. And I'd always, in my head, like when I sing that song, I always switched it to Joe Biden. And I was like, fuck, dude, like, who knew how true that was? I didn't know this nigga was going to run for president at the time. I had just always switched it to, I don't want Joe Biden, need Joe Biden. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 54. No, sir. Babylon 5 podcast. I'm your host, Jermaine Babbles. It's the second recording. Or second real recording. So what I did, when Anastasia sent me that count off, I made a session and then I just like saved it for this episode, and I recorded the episode. It was like, fuck yeah. It was like just about an hour long, and I was ready to get to mix that shit down and bounce that shit out. And I was like, whoa, there's nothing there. There's nothing on the track, and except for the count off from Anastasia. And so I'm like, okay, what did I do? How did I delete it? I'm going through my edit history. It's not here. There's nothing here. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I got to re-record the whole episode? I'm like, no way. I mean, I'm doing it right now. But I'm like, there's no fucking way that this is about to happen. And I was like, there's no way. I was like, I just recorded that whole episode. And I was like, whatever. All right. I did whatever I did, prepared to do the episode again, and I just to test, I hit record again, and again in that session, it would not record any audio, which now that I think about has often been an issue with the Studio One. I don't know if it's just my laptop or something, but like for older studio sessions, I'll go back in and sometimes like I can't record new audio if it's been like too long since I've used that session. Like it just won't record in new audio. So I set up that session when Anastasia sent me her audio, and it wouldn't allow me today to record audio. But I see here audio is recording, and here we are. I'm watching this Clippers Mavericks game. Looks like the Clippers are going to win. Looks like they're going to advance to the next round. It's pretty cool, I guess. Here we are. Episode 54, No, Sir. Recording number 2. I'm going to give you guys the social medias if I didn't already. I don't think I did. I mean, this is the second recording, so who knows? I just know I said it a few times. This is Babylon 5 Podcast, episode 54. If you want to follow this podcast on Instagram or Twitter, you can go ahead and follow at Babylon. The handle is at Babylon 5 Pod. You can follow my personal account at My Name's Jermaine. You can email this podcast at babylon5podcast@gmail.com. You can follow this podcast at babylon5.podbean.com. You can go to Podbean. You can listen to this podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, pretty much anywhere podcasts stream. If you have Xbox One, if you want to game it up, go ahead and add me at SauceBoss414. Especially if you got Civilization. I've been low-key stepping it up on the Civilization. Now that I think about this, I'm going to turn this game off because it's starting to look like a blowout. Or wait, Luka just did some shit. Now it's a 13-point game. All right, I'm going to keep the game going. But yeah, if you niggas got Xbox One and you play Civilization especially, I'm getting better figuring this shit out. Go ahead and add me. My gamer tag is SauceBoss414. If you niggas got... So I went to Twitch... And I saw that my video, I didn't see any videos on there. I've done some streams with, I've done Dragon Ball. I've done a few streams. I think I did, Skyrim? I did Skyrim streams when I purchased Skyrim again because I was, feeling nostalgic. So I was streaming all that, and, yeah. I streamed all that, and still... I went on there and I didn't see any videos. So I'm sorry if you've gone on there and you didn't see any videos. I got to figure out how to get the videos to save on there. Because I've streamed, I've spoken to people as I've streamed. But at the same time, I remember my buddy Zach, who follows me on there, told me he never got a notification that I was streaming. But people have been in the stream and we've chatted. They've said things and I've spoken back to them. So people have seen the chats. Random strangers have seen the streams. But for whatever reason, they don't save to the Twitch. So I got to figure that out. I don't know what's going on. But hopefully I'll do some Civilization at some point here. If you want to check out the merchandise, go to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. Go ahead and be my patrons. Go to patreon.com/Babylon5pod. Go ahead and be my patrons. I might not... This might be a shorter episode just because this is the second recording. And I had to go through the whole thing. I was like, I could wait, but nah. Because, my wife is out with her friend doing some shit right now. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I'm not going to wait for her to get back home and then, I'm just sitting in here recording this episode. At least I could kick it with my wife. The least I could do, my nigga. The least I could do. She's a master singer, ladies and gentlemen. It's the least I could do. So, how's you guys' week been? How has your week been? This is the hype from... This is the second recording. I did the full recording. I'm on the second recording, and I'm hype. I thought I had a lot of good moments in that first recording. I got done with that first recording, and I was like, hell yeah. Hell yeah. And then I was like, what? No, whoa, what's going on? That's what I was like. Did I mention FetLife? I don't know. Did I mention Anastasia on this past episode that I was listening to? They were talking about fetishes and spankings. I don't know if I mentioned, but I just want to touch it. I'm so sorry. I don't know if I, now I'm like, fuck, did I touch on that? Did I say that? Blah, blah, blah. How has your week been? I hope it's been cool. My week, cool. just yesterday, I helped the father-in-law move. Sold his house, helped him move to his new condo. Pretty cool-looking place. Yeah. So that was something that I did yesterday. I missed a lot of the fights yesterday because we were doing that. Not because it took a long time. It was just that he hired some people, like some professionals or whatever, to clean his condo before we moved everything in there. And somebody like called in that was like supposed to be there. So it was only one person in there cleaning. And it just took them like super long to clean. And so that just took later. So I ended up missing like pretty much all of the prelims except for the, maybe the last fight of the prelims. I forget who that was. Maybe the Serco fight. I think I saw that fight. That's when I came home. But that was pretty cool, you know. The wife and I, sis-in-law, brother-in-law, we just, well, it was me and the wife. We got there early. We got there like 8 o'clock in the morning and just were like hustling. Like, let's get this done, you know. And, yeah. And the only reason it took longer than it should have was because old girl who was cleaning the apartment or the condo was a man down unexpectedly, you know. But it was cool, and we hustled through that bitch. We hustled through it. Ladies and gentlemen, we hustled through it. Been working on some beats lately. Working on a lot of beats lately. All different kinds, because I was working on hip-hop beats, but at the same time, you know, I don't just like hip-hop, so I was like, let me just try some other shit. It would be dumb to just only work on hip-hop. And to be honest with you, the way things have been going lately, I'm thinking I need to be fucking with some, I think my next project is very likely going to be some new disco. Most likely is not going to be hip-hop. Hip-hop's not as fun as fucking new disco. New disco makes me fucking want to move, you know? I like to move it. I like to move it at appropriate times. And when new disco's on, it feels like the appropriate time. So I'm just really into like the new beats that I was working like, and I started working on a lot of new disco stuff, and I like the sounds of it. And it naturally was forcing me to get into like more in-depth things because I was naturally more into the sounds of what I was creating. I was vibing with it way more than I was the hip-hop beats that I was working on. Like, this shit, I fucking, it's bouncy, my nigga. It's bouncy. So, I'm thinking this next project's gonna be a new disco project. It's fucking silly for anyone to be like, oh shit, I can't do it because I make rap. And the people that know that I'm gonna make rap are gonna think that I'm not as real if I do something else. Nigga, fuck those people. Fuck those people. I'm gonna make music, nigga. I'm going to make music. I've always been a fan of music. Grew up on like Gorillaz, Daft Punk, fucking Ye, Eminem, Coolio, nigga. Everybody, fucking everybody, man. I listen to everybody. You know? And I fucking love new disco. My older roommate, Eric Butzik, we used to live together in Madison, and he made this DJ set called Born on a Friday, and I was looking for it online. I've been looking for it for years, but it's just not available. And from what I was aware, Eric pretty much didn't have an online presence. His old stage name, Melatonin, had pretty much been inactive from what I could see online. And what I found out was his new stage name, Rusty Shackleford, is out here. It's live and active, you know. So I hit him up like, hey, man, I'm looking for Born on a Friday. Is there any way you could, like, show me where that's available or, like, send it to me if you still have it? And he sent it to me. And it, like, I forgot how much I love new disco. Holy shit, I'm glad I didn't shut this game off. Like, it's like a 6-point game now. Luka Doncic's balling. Yeah, Luka's going off. It's a 6-point game right now, and I'm glad I didn't shut it off. So I hit Eric up. I find him online, Rusty Shackleford. And I was like, yo, can you send it to me? Send it to me, and I re-found my love for new disco. So it's just fun. It's bouncy. And I'm pretty sure my next project's going to be new disco. All right? All right. Chadwick Boseman passed away from colon cancer the other day. The report says that he was dealing with this for the past 4 years. He's battling colon cancer for the past 4 years. It's rather unfortunate. People lost, the black community maybe even more. Feels like they lost a real, like, role model. You know, it hit people real hard. He was filming Black Panther in between chemotherapy sessions, you know. It's wild. You know, rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. He's 43 years old. Some in all the Avengers that he's in. All kinds of shit. The saddest thing that broke my heart was my wife had shared this meme, and it was pointing out that, like, when Chadwick was he posted a video. He's talking about the Jackie Robinson movie. He played Jackie Robinson. It's 42. And everybody was saying, like, he's on coke because he was so skinny in the video. And they were calling him Crack Panther. But it turns out that whole time he was going through chemotherapy. He's actually dying. It's just unfortunate. And nobody knew it. You know, the whole time he's doing Make-A-Wish, as far as the public, like, nobody knew it until he passed away, unfortunately. So, rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. It's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. In other unfortunate news, last week, after I recorded, I saw a video of the shooting. Jacob Blake was shot in the back 7 times at close range by a Kenosha police officer while attempting to leave the scene of something. So there's reports saying that there was an altercation between 2 women, and for whatever reason, Jacob Blake showed up and tried to break up the fight, de-escalate the situation. And when the cops showed up, he, like, for whatever reason, tried to leave. And for whatever reason, they pulled their guns on him and like, followed after him while pointing guns at him. And then he goes to get in his car, and they shoot him. The one cop shoots him 7 times in the back. His children in the back seat. There's young kids in the back seat, and they shoot him 7 times in the back. He's paralyzed from the waist down. The Bucks decide to boycott. I'm jumping. You got Frank Nitti and protesters marching to Washington, D.C. They faced gunfire. One person was sent to the hospital, got hit with buckshot in Pennsylvania on the way to Washington, D.C. In other unfortunate news, on night three of the protests of the Jacob Blake shooting, because once the videos hit, there's more, it's gonna reignite everything. There's protests, and then there's peaceful protests for what's going on, and then there's people on the other side that are trying to escalate and make situations happen. And that's who this shooter was, who on night 3 killed 2 protesters and shot another one. He was a 17-year-old protester that his mom drove to the protest and gave a rifle or some shit. It was like an AR-15. I don't know anything about guns, but his mom drove this 17-year-old white dude to Wisconsin from Illinois, gave him this gun, and he murdered 2 people, shot another one. So rest in peace to Joseph Rosenbaum. Rest in peace to Anthony Huber. I believe those are the names of the individuals who lost their life from this fucking 17-year-old whose mom drove him there and gave him the gun for what purpose? Other than to be fucking racist. Other than to be fucking racist. What was the purpose? I'm trying to explain. So that happens, and the Bucks decide to not take the court for Game 5 originally. That was the night after this shooting, this murder, double homicide, and people started to, other organizations started to follow suit. The other teams in the NBA decide to boycott their games. The Celtics and the Raptors, they have a meeting. They're talking about ending the whole playoffs for the NBA. The Brewers decide to not play their game. MLS, they decide to take off. WNBA, everybody decides not to play games because of this double homicide that happens in Kenosha. It's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. When I recorded this the first time, I went on a whole rant about the Brewers and Josh Hader and how the Brewers decided to take a game off tonight to stand up with the civil rights movement currently going on, but they didn't say anything about Josh Hader or didn't cut that guy. So I'll just say they're hypocrites, and we can move on. Kenosha police chief says that it's the protesters' fault because he set up curfew. So it's their fault that they died, because they wouldn't have died if they weren't out. So he would never refer to this 17-year-old as a murderer, even though there's a curfew, and the 17-year-old is out there with a gun, with a long gun, past curfew. He refused to call this guy a murderer. The news articles even refer to him as a police admirer. They don't call him what he actually is. Call him police admirer. It's pretty fucking gross, all right? And Kenosha police sheriff says he blames the protesters and says they wouldn't have died if they weren't out past his curfew. It's fucking gross. It's fucking gross. So Jacob Blake was handcuffed to his bed, and they eventually decided to drop the charges and take the handcuffs off. And I was curious what the charges were. Like, why was Jacob Blake, after being shot 7 times, handcuffed to a bed? And from what I believe, the story that I read, he, let's see this, actually. I got the article here. I know it says that, like, with his ex-girlfriend, he, like, broke into her house. So the police were called to the exact same spot where he was shot, that place where they were, which makes the story a little bit more interesting, which is why I'm mentioning this. A week before he was shot, they were called to that same like little housing project for Jacob Blake. The police were called to that housing project for Jacob Blake. His girlfriend or ex-girlfriend lived there. And he apparently, like, broke into her house at, like, 6 o'clock in the morning and, like, woke her up. She was laying in bed with her daughter. And he was just, like, apparently was like, give me my shit. And, like, stuck his finger in her pussy. Well, what he says, Blake was standing over her saying, I want my shit. As the victim lay on her back, Blake suddenly, without warning, reached his hand between her legs, penetrated her vaginally with a finger, pulled it out and sniffed it, and said, smells like you've been with other men. All right, so this is a week before the shooting. This is what happened at that same little housing complex that he was shot at a week later. So she calls the police. Here's the report about that. And it states that while waiting for the officers, the victim said she checked her account and found 2 fraudulent ATM withdrawals of $500 each from Blake. Because Blake, what did I miss? The officer noted the victim had a very difficult time telling him this and cried as she told, what am I looking for here? Yeah, she also told the police officer after he left, he realized her vehicle and debit card were missing. And that's when she called the police. And then she found out that he withdrew about $1,000, withdrew $1,000 from her bank account with her debit card. She told the police that Blake was unemployed and she didn't know where he was living at the time. He refused to tell her where he was living and that he was abusive whenever he drank, and he drinks heavily. So this is what happened a week before at the very same location where he was shot. And that same person apparently called the cops prior to the shooting, stating that he was there making threats. And then the officer on the scene responded saying that this woman, Sabrina, had become unresponsive. Let me see. Coincidentally, in a dispatch call on August 24th, August 2020, first reported a woman who told police dispatcher her name was Sabrina called from Kenosha, Wisconsin, and claimed Jacob Blake took her keys. He wasn't supposed to be there and won't give her keys back. A few seconds later, dispatch could be heard telling police that Blake has a warrant for his arrest. All right? This is what happened prior to the shooting. Dispatchers tells the police that Blake has a warrant for his arrest. And then the dispatcher then told police Sabrina was being uncooperative and eventually disconnected the phone call. And a few minutes later, Blake was shot 7 times. So they were fully aware of the warrant. I guess I overlooked that the first time I read that article. They're fully... So this is why they're coming at him with guns. And he was trying to leave. He had a sexual assault, I think, well, for the woman there. broke in, fucking stole her car, fingered her. He had a warrant, felony warrant for that situation that they were aware of, and they followed him. I compare it to like the Rodney King situation where I don't condone the situation I don't forgive the situation that led up to that, but the actions, the response is what I can't agree with. You don't take 7 shots as a warning. 7 shots is murderous intent. That's intent to kill. You don't, if you're the guy that shot 50 Cent and you shot him 9 times, you're not thinking in your mind, I'm just gonna shoot him 9 times, I hope he doesn't die. No, you shot him 9 times with murderous intent. That was intent to kill. You shot this guy 7 times. It wasn't, hey, I felt threatened and there was no other way to like stop him in this situation. I just had to shoot. You shot this man in the back 7 times. And then y'all said, oh yeah, the nigga had a knife in the car. Well, what about the video I watched where a guy with a white dude with a knife chases this officer while they're screaming, please drop the knife, and he's running at the police officers with a knife in hand. And you're saying you're justified in shooting this man in the back 7 times because there was a knife in the vehicle that he didn't come at you with. While I watch a video of a white dude chase an officer with a knife while she has her gun in her hand. Nothing happens, but in this video, you shoot him 7 times in the back, and then you mention. So it's just, it's silly. It's just silly. I don't condone. So it's like there's more of what's going on that led to it, but you niggas, you handled it wrong, and that's why we're protesting. That's where it is. None of that shit's condoning. We're not saying these people are heroes, you know what I'm saying, by any means. It's just the way you guys are handling it to any individual, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, or anything. This is unacceptable. That's the whole point of why this shit is happening. And it just baffles me when people, they defend murderers. These fucking murderers. Over fucking, it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm not even talking about the police. I'm talking about the shooter here. You defend them over your blind loyalty to this organization that's murdering people. And if black people are like, hey man, they're murdering people, you're like, yeah man, they're murdering white people too, get over it. It's like, no man, you should be like, yo, so there should be some kind of regulation. They should be held accountable. There shouldn't be officers with multiple bodies that, like, unless you're just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know the situation. What's the situation? I'm trying to think, like, if you're this badass cop, but I'm thinking, like, what's the situation, like, where cops are just, like, in crazy shootouts and you're, like, the badass cop in some movie where you be in America. Like, this is Bad Boys. Like, unless you're a cop in Bad Boys, I don't understand where you'd have so many bodies. So unless you're Mike Lowry, then you shouldn't have that many bodies. That's how I feel about it. Without, like, there has to be a cause. There has to be a just cause. This shit don't make no sense. There has to be more, there has to be just more accountability. That's why we're here, ladies. That's why we're here, gentlemen. That's why we're here. Looks like the Clippers are going to win this game after all. The Mavericks tried. They tried. They're going to come back next season. Luka's going to be here. He's going to have Kristaps. He's going to have Kristaps with him. And they're going to be a force to reckon with. Maybe they can make some moves in the offseason. They can make some moves. in the offseason. You got this fuck nigga Trump coming to Kenosha, escalate situations. I'm not interested in that. Not interested in whatever happens on that day, Tuesday. But unfortunately, he's coming. Come on, Boban, you're right there next to the basket. You can't make a fucking shot, nigga. You could have dunked it from that close. Tall ass nigga. Look at like 7'6". You're like 7'6". All that tallness for nothing, nigga. Can't even make a basket. Got UFC. Just happened. Had this nigga Impa Kasangani. Impa Kasangani versus Maki Pitolo. Kasangani just dominated the whole fight, that's in my opinion. Watch that. He just fucking just ran through. Pitolo was landing some shots, but like, I'm not saying they weren't doing any damage to Impa, but Impa was like eating everything and just coming forward and landing some heavy shots and just dominating the whole fight. So he looks like a real problem and a potential star. I'm just hoping they don't rush him too fast and ruin a potential star, because there was definitely some holes there. You know, he's pretty raw. I think he has like 8 fights. That was like his 8th professional fight. So as long as they don't rush him, I think they have something potentially special there. He's pretty talented. You had Neil Magny taking on Robbie Lawler. Neil Magny dominated Robbie Lawler from bell to bell. A lot of people are saying, like, oh, maybe Robbie Lawler should retire at this point. I just think it was a terrible matchup for Robbie Lawler in the first place. We saw what happened when he fought Colby Covington, who out-wrestled and outstruck him. Guess what happened in this one, ladies and gentlemen? The wrestler out-wrestled and outstruck Robbie Lawler. Now, Robbie Lawler used to be known for his defensive wrestling, but that just hasn't been the case recently. And we saw that with Colby Covington. So pretty much it was obvious that Magny was going to win this fight, and he dominated all 3 rounds. And then you had Anthony Smith taking on... well, before I get in there, I just want to say I want Robbie Lawler to take on Khamzat Chimaev before he retires. Just give him the rub. You know what I'm saying? Bounce him up into the top 15 before you retire, because I just don't know if Robbie Lawler has it in him anymore. His coaches were in between rounds trying to wake him up, like, come on, this isn't a sparring. Go in there and try to hurt him. Please, come on, go in there and fight. And he just, like, didn't have that killer instinct anymore. He's lost 4 in a row. He might be around the point of retirement. I think he's going to fight his contract out and retire. And I hope if he's got 1 or 2 last fights, one of those last 2 fights will be with my boy Khamzat Chimaev. That's what I would like to see. So the main event, you had Anthony Smith taking on Alexander Rakic. Alexander Rakic just dominates Anthony Smith for 3 rounds. Hits him with these nasty leg kicks. Like, I recorded an I Digress, and then I, like, stopped. I was like, I don't know. This is going to be too good of footage. I had some technical difficulties with OBS. I tried to play the video. I thought it looked like it was gonna work better, and I was gonna play the video in there, and then it just started to freeze up like right away again. So then I just like watched the video on the screen, and I was saying in there like, dude, Rakic utilizes leg kicks in a way that like not a lot of people do at 205 at the light heavyweight, is what I thought. And sure enough, those leg kicks were right away very impactful, to the point where Anthony Smith, they thought like he was so compromised. They're like, he's not going to be able to stand up again after the first round. But for whatever reason, Rakic would just go to the round and grapple with him and like fight on the ground rather than making him stand up and continuing to attack the leg. And that was the one knock people had against Rakic, but he just dominated Anthony Smith for that entire fight. And I said in the first recording, I looked at the rankings and I was like, I don't think Anthony Smith can beat too many people in the top 15. And I was like, yeah, he beat Volkan. But, like, I felt like Volkan was lighting him up earlier in the fight, but just kind of tired himself out and just gave up. And regardless of that, I don't think he could beat or be, honestly, too competitive with too many people in the top 15. And right before I recorded this, I saw that Anthony Smith said that after this loss, he's got some decisions to make regarding his future. And I was like, fuck, dude, I'm so glad I saw that. If there's any silver lining to me having to record this, again, it's the fact that I just said, like, I don't really see too many more matchups for him at light heavyweight, or even if he was able to move back down to 185, I don't see too many favorable matchups for him over there either. So I'm not sure, and I thought it was pretty interesting that he kind of reaffirmed that thought, that he's kind of like, after this fight here, with how he looked in the past few fights, like, I don't know. Like, Gustafsson's got that glaring hole of grappling. If you can grapple decently, you can beat Gustafsson. That's just how it is. And we saw it again with Fabricio Verdum. We all knew that was going to happen. Like, we all knew it. And so that matchup there, if you can get, because Anthony Smith is so hard to finish, that matchup is favorable because you can go into the later rounds and eventually get a hold of Gustafsson and choke him out, which he did. But I don't really see Anthony Smith hanging with too many people in the top 15. Definitely don't see him really being too competitive. If he fought Dominic Reyes tomorrow, do I see him being too competitive? Absolutely not. Do I see him being too competitive against Jan? Absolutely not. He beat Volkan the first time, but honestly, I don't. Whatever. Whatever. I don't know. So it's real interesting. Rakic, I think maybe he's either next in line or just needs one more fight, and then he's there for a title shot at 205. But that'll be interesting. Next week we got, in the main event, is Alistair Overeem. I don't really care too much for this card. But I might watch it. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to watch it, but I don't know. I think UFC could have did a little more than give us another Alistair Overeem. Man, was it 2007? I don't know. How long has Alistair Overeem been in the UFC? Before, I was a weekly subscriber, but yeah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. This is episode 54, Sir. Give you guys social medias. If you guys want to follow this count on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. If you want to follow my personal account, it's at My Name's Jermaine. You can email the podcast at Babylon5Podcast. You can email the podcast at Babylon5podcast@gmail.com. You can follow this podcast at Babylon5.podbean.com. You can listen to this podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, nigga, pretty much anywhere podcast stream. And if you got Xbox One, go ahead and add your boy. My gamer tag is SauceBoss414. If you're going to go ahead and hit up that Twitch regardless, it's twitch.tv/Babylon5. You can go ahead to check out the merchandise at teespring.com/stores/BOFpod-shop. And don't be my Negro, be my patron. Go to patreon.com/Babylon5Pod. This is Jermaine Event, episode 54. Thank you so much to Anastasia for the count off. You guys should go ahead and check out the And the Wife podcast. Read the episode I was checking. I think it's the most recent episode talking about fet life and fetishes and whatnot. Go ahead and check it out. It's episode 54. It's Jermaine Event. It's Sir. Thank you guys for being here. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.